Okay, so this is my second part on a little video on how to use the micropipettes. This time we're going to use them to load a gel because this is one of the most common things we do with these micropipettes. Okay, so first I want to see if you remember how to suck up and squirt. So if I get my little micropipette and see it's still at that 15.5, and that's okay, we're going to use that volume say, but whatever the volume is, remember you would have to set it. Okay, suck up. How do you remember? Okay, so if you remember holding it, your fingers are here. And when you want to suck up, you push down to the first stop, stick it in the fluid, let up, then pull it out of the fluid. Okay, so one more time for sucking up. Push down to the first stop, stick it in your fluid, right? Your fluid that you're getting out. Lift up, sucked it up, then pull it out. Okay, all right. Then how do you squirt out? Well, you touch it to the surface and push all the way down to the second stop. Lift up, then lift your thumb off. Okay, you couldn't quite see my thumb. So one more time, you touch it to the surface, push all the way through to the second stop, then lift up, then pull up with your thumb. Okay, and that's very important because if you're touching down like this and you squirt it out and you lift your thumb up before you've lifted this up, you're just going to suck it right back up. All right, so what's wrong with this micropipetter? Good, I don't have a tip on it. I heard you out there. Okay, so now I've got a tip on it. Whenever I have a tip, remember you want to hold it in the upright position because that means you might have fluid. You don't want that fluid leaking back into the machinery here. Okay, these things are quite expensive. All right, so this time we're going to do a practice gel. So we're going to suck up and squirt out that same blue fluid, but this time we're going to squirt it out into this Petri dish that has like what we call a Dora gel in there. It's kind of like a fake gel. Okay, and that's kind of at the bottom there. It's kind of this rubbery substance. It's definitely harder than what gels are. And then I just covered it in water because a lot of times when we're loading this thing, the gel is covered in buffer. Okay, so don't put your hands in this normally. This is just water and this is a Dora gel, and you can see that there's wells in it, these little indentations. I can stick like my fingernail in those indentations. Don't do that with your regular gel though, because number one, I don't want you touching your gel. You can mess it up that way. And number two, the gel tears easily. The gel that you will be making and using when you do this process it's got the consistency of Jello. And if you stick your finger in Jello and it'll rip apart. So you don't want to rip apart your Jello. Okay, so you don't want to rip apart your gel. All right, so I'm going to suck up. I've got it set at my 15.5 microliters. I'm using the 2 to 20. That does fall in that range. I'm going to get my fluid, so I'm going to push down to the first stop, stick it in the fluid. I know this is kind of off screen. Lift my thumb up, then pull it out. And you didn't get to see all that, but there's my 15.5 microliters. Now, here's the tricky part. Now, there's a couple of things that I want you to do here, okay? One, rest your elbow on a table. My elbow's set back a little bit. And then I like to even hold my wrist sometimes, okay? Because then what I'm going to have to do, and I'm going to have to get this tip into that well, okay? So you can feel for that well ever so slight. And once you got it in there, push down to the second stop, right, all the way through, lift out, and then pull up. Oh, I did that pretty good and on camera too. I'm very proud of myself. Let's see if I can go two for two. So I'll push down. Now, if I was using different samples, like say I have this blue liquid, but say I want to use a red liquid, I would have to shoot off that tip, get a new tip, right? Okay, get a new tip. And let's say I was getting another liquid. I still just have the blue liquid here. I'm going to push down to the first stop, stick it in the liquid, draw up, pull it out of the liquid. There's my 15.5. And now I want to load that third lane. This is lane 1, lane 2, lane 3, lane 4, 5, 6. It's like swimmers, get in your lanes. All right. And you can see this is kind of dribbling out. That's because the stuff that I'm using here doesn't have weight to it. When you use DNA, the DNA fluid is going to have some weight to it. So it won't drift up and, kind of float out of those wells. Once it's down in those wells, it'll stay there. Another thing to be careful about when you do the real gels, okay, it's so easy to poke through these. So you don't want to poke through. So I'm reaching in, okay, very gently, and I'm going to expel out. And the slower you do it, the better. Push all the way down to the second stop. Pull this out. My thumb's still down, and then lift my thumb up. Did a pretty good job on that. Notice, the slower you go, the better it's going to be. And you want to get that sample into those wells. This is micropipetting. They don't call it micro for nothing, okay? We are definitely working with small quantities and putting small quantities in these things. Okay, eventually this gel, okay, now this is just sitting in a Petri dish, but I'm going to show you the little gels that you're pouring in the lab and making, and then I'll, if we get a chance, I'll show you the big mama, I call her, that runs 6 gels at a time, okay? So I'm going to shoot off my tip, okay, because that's trash now, okay? Put my micropipetter back in the stand, okay? And I'm going to show you one of the gel things, okay? So I'm going to set this aside, okay? And I'm going to show you one of the gel things, okay? This is the other part that we're going to be doing, okay? This is the gel box, okay? And in this gel box, okay, you're going to have to pour the gel. Well, if you pour the gel in here, it's going all over the place. So you got to put these dams on there, dam it up. And these things are pretty tight fitting on here. Sometimes you got to start it on one side and then, just kind of push it onto the other side. So we have that pushed on there. Then I got to put this dam on the other side, okay? Put it in here, and squeeze that on, good. And it should be a nice tight fit, okay? Then you'll notice on this gel box, there's a little nook at the top end, and there's a nook halfway in the middle, okay? Most of the time with our labs, we're going to be putting our comb, see, it's called a comb, and you can see why, okay? We're going to be putting our comb at the far end. Okay, because when the gels run, this comb, so this is a mold to make our gels, okay? So we're going to have gels just like that fake one kind of, except real, and they're going to be made out of Jell-O, okay? So let me turn this, see if you can get like a little better view of this, right? And I'll show you. The combs are pointing down in there, right? And when I go to pour stuff in here, I won't want it to come up over the dam, okay, because that makes a mess. So you just bring it right to the top of the dam when you pour it, okay? So I can hold it this way. So you'll be pouring the gel mixture in there. And the gel will be warm, swirl it around, then pour it. You want to try not to get air bubbles in and everything. Pour the gel in, and this will make the impressions. Make sure this is all the way down in. This will make the impressions for your wells. Okay, once you've poured it, you allow it to sit for about a good 20 minutes, okay, and it cools. And as it cools, it solidifies. It's like making Jell-O, if you've ever made Jell-O. I don't know if anybody makes Jell-O anymore. But anyway, Jell-O, you pour it out, and then it sets after a while. Well, it's the same thing with the gels for electrophoresis. You're going to pour the gel stuff in there, and that will be already made up, okay, and there will be warm bottles of it. Just pour it over, pour it in. Okay, don't go too high up. Definitely don't go over the dams. Okay, do not breach the dams. Okay, once you pour it up, you'll see it'll go in. Make sure it's like all in between. And this is going to leave the impressions. Once that gel is all set, you'll be taking the comb out, and it's good to just kind of ever so slightly jiggle it out when you come out. And you will see the impressions there. Okay, they will have the 6 wells in there. Okay, then the gel is in there, but you can't leave these dams in there because these dams are eventually going to come off. And this is kind of tricky because when you go to pull these off and your gel's in there, the gel's going to like want to come with it. So you might need to use a little fingernail to kind of keep it in there or something, but you want to keep it in. You'll take these dams off and like kind of ever so slightly hold on to that gel. It's going to go sliding on you. Pull this off. It's going to pull with that. But if you pull it at an angle, it pulls off. And the gel then stays in there. And now you have your gel, just kind of hold it, and you're going to be bringing that gel over to Big Mama, I call it, okay? And Big Mama is the gel electrophoresis chamber over there, and you're going to set your box with the gel in it into one of the spots. And it can only go in a certain way. You'll see there's all these little nooks and everything. So you can't fit it the wrong way, which is kind of nice. And 6 of them will all go in there. Okay. And you'll see that as you bring them over. And I'll be over there when you go to put your gel in. You can even leave your dams on until you bring the gel over. Okay. And you can do it with me over there. Then we'll set it down in and we'll pour buffer all over it. And then after the buffer is all poured all over it, okay, then we'll be loading our wells, okay? And that's when you'll be getting the micropipetters, and you'll actually be loading the different samples of DNA. You'll have a ladder, we call it, which is kind of like a standard curve kind of to compare everything to. You'll have a control group, okay, which is a positive control, by the way. The positive control will show the Huntington's disease. Then you'll have the father, the mother, the daughter, and the son. Maybe not necessarily in that order. I know because father, mother, I don't know if they put son before daughter or daughter before son, but it's on your sheet there. And you'll load all the father, mother, daughter, son DNA into it. You'll load the positive control and the ladder. So there will be 6 things you have to load in. So you and your partner, like one person's not going to do all the loading. Everybody's going to try, and it's okay to mess up. We're in lab. We're not like, detecting if somebody has COVID here or not. If we were doing that, you would need a heck of a lot more practice before you get to do that, okay? But we're going to be loading those gels, and then and this isn't all in the same day. Remember, you're going to pour your gels on day 1, and you're also going to set up the PCR on day 1. This is for our first lab. On day 2, that's when you're going to load the gels, and then I'm going to close them up and let them run. And I'm actually going to take them off when they're done, stain them. So then the next day you come in, you'll have these beautiful gels that are on all your little trays, and you'll be able to analyze those gels, and hopefully they'll come out really nice, okay? So that's my 2 videos on micropipetting and loading the gel. On this one, remember, we reminded how to suck up and squirt. Once again, let me just reiterate that, okay? When you're sucking up, push to the first stop, put it in the fluid, suck it up, then pull it out. But when you squirt, put it down into your tube or wherever, push all the way down, lift up, then the thumb up, okay? I guarantee you'll get it wrong, and you might, okay? But somebody will get it wrong. A few people will get it wrong, and it's okay, okay? This is not like a life or death situation, okay? But if we practice enough doing this, then we can get this really good and have good results. Because it's always good when your results turn out good. And, it's definitely much more exciting, okay? It's like a win. It's like a win, in the win column. All right. So hopefully you don't have any questions here, or we're going to practice this or we already did. And that's it, folks.